when people are not just open and honest in general, we tend to get this little ping, in our body. We sense it that something's not right. Pay attention to things where they're just promising you the world, that you're going to have so much financial success, that they're going to print all these copies. You're not reading the contract, right? So you're not reading the contract, and then they've written. Hi, I'm Michelle Hardy, and today I wanted to just talk to you about some red flags that happen in the publishing industry and how you can avoid them by knowing this information. One red flag that you might want to be aware of is the lack of transparency. When people are not just open and honest in general, we tend to get this little ping, in our body. We sense it that something's not right. They're not being honest, just in general. So the same would apply for a publishing house or an agent, or someone who's editing your book. If something doesn't feel right, then you need to address it immediately. You don't want to let it linger, because if it doesn't feel right in your spirit, this is probably not the match for you. But if somebody's not telling you everything and they're not forthcoming, they're not being transparent, it's just kind of like you wish you had some special vision so you could see through them and see what they really want to say that they're holding back on. Another red flag for a publishing house would be they have a poor reputation. They already have bad reviews online. People are always talking about them. You can pull their name up, and the first thing you pull up is some negative review about them, how they didn't do someone well. And so then other people will chime in under that initial post, and then there you have it. There will be a lot of people who just felt the same way. I always say, if one person says it, okay, and there's nobody else saying it. Two people are saying it, okay, we need to pay attention. If three people are saying it, okay, there needs to be a change. So if they don't have a great reputation, don't start out by saying, oh, well, I'm going to give them another chance. Don't fall victim to someone who already has proven that they are not reputable. Another red flag that we really want to pay attention to when we're dealing with publishers is unrealistic promises. We've all seen those television shows or movies where, oh, I'm going to print 100,000 copies of your book, and then we're going to give you an advance for blah, blah, blah. Right. And so, for most people, that's not going to be the case. So if it seems unrealistic, not unless your book has just been reviewed by a lot of people, you've done a lot of legwork before you even got to a publisher, there's just, you're not going to get this ridiculous deal. So pay attention to things where they're just promising you the world, that you're going to have so much financial success, that they're going to print all these copies. You're not reading the contract, right? So you're not reading the contract, and then they've written it so that they are getting most of the money, and then you're left with the short end of the stick, so to speak. So just be mindful and always pay attention. If it seems too good to be true, we all know the term, then it probably is not true what they're promising you. Another red flag that you might want to consider in, you know, publishing houses or self-publishing as well is if the publishing company has an inadequate editor or a proofreader. And so, like I said, this goes for publishing houses or doing self publishing. You do not want your book to look bad. So, if they cannot edit your book properly and you give them the rough draft or your best copy, and then it comes back and it's edited so much that it really loses its whole essence, then it's probably time to go and address this. You don't want to say, "Oh, well, I'm going to take one for the team. I'm going to let them have that one." But is it really your book at that point, or is it their book? Some publishing houses publish certain types of books. Some writers write certain types of books and they want them to be written a certain way. We know many writers like this and authors. So if it's not in your voice, the way that you meant it to be written, then you need to go back and say, "Hey, no, I want you to put this part in," or "Hey, I need you to take that part out." You really do not want to. This is non negotiable because your voice is being taken. And so if someone's not editing properly, and also, they are missing things that need to be in there, or, it doesn't flow, it doesn't sound right. Um, or things that you missed, your best friend missed, that really need to come out. All of this needs to be addressed, right? We would hope that everyone is perfect and they're going to do a perfect job, but we all are not perfect. We are human. So we can give grace, but we do not make exceptions on our books. We need to make sure that they are the way that we need them to be. One thing that you really want to look for when you are dealing with a publisher, if they're professional. If they lack professionalism, then it might be safe to say that's not the one to go with, even if they're offering you a deal. People should be talking to you professionally. They should talk to you with respect, I should say. And they should have a well put together website. They should have a way to contact them by email, through their website. You should have every way. They should be able to be reached, on all social media platforms, not just one way to contact them. And then when you try to reach them, they don't get back to you. So this is a lack of professionalism. So they should at best have the website well designed so that you can just flow through it, and then you'll be able to see their other clients as well, right? So these are some things to pay attention to. Some people say, "Well, I just like somebody who I can relate to," but you do want to have someone who has some kind of tact, professionalism, decorum about themselves. They are just not out here saying, "Oh, yes, I can publish your book," and they're taking your money. Okay, that's one thing. And then they're not delivering. So make sure that they are valid, that they are out here and other people have worked with them and they have a great reputation, right? Now, another red flag that this is really important to me. I believe that if a publisher doesn't want any author input, it's all about them and how are they going to look. I know certain publishers say, "Oh, well, all our books, we like them to look this way." But if you do not have any input, then it doesn't become your book anymore. It becomes their book, and you want to be pleased with the outcome, the final result of your book. So you have to be in there on the entire journey. So when it's laid out, designed, the cover, the colors, you want to feel good inside when you look at this piece of art, this work that you've done. And if they are not taking any of your suggestions or considering you in any way, this is probably not the place where you need to be. Another red flag that you might want to consider is limiting the distribution and marketing of your book. If they promise you one thing, they need to deliver. If it's in writing, they need to deliver. Now, limiting the distribution would be like, okay, we're going to make sure that it is in all of these bookstores, but then it never gets there. Or these different publishing platforms. If you have someone who's helping you get on all the different publishing platforms, but you only end up on, let's say, Amazon, then you need to go back and say, hey, this is what we were supposed to do. You need to put my book out there, right? The marketing, you need to make sure that they do the marketing. Now, some will put it on you to do it because it's like, oh, we gave you this great deal. That's the least that you can do because we are going to print all these copies of these books for you. So, depends on what your agreement is, but they should be doing some marketing. If they are as big as they say they are and they do what they do, they should deliver on that part. Another red flag that you might want to consider when going with a publisher or self publishing is a little track record. So, whoever you're dealing with, they do not have a track record for doing what they say they've done. They may only have one client, but how well have they helped that client? Now, if that is their only client and they are very successful, okay, well, let's check them out. Let's see what they've done. Let's talk to the other client. But if they don't have anything to prove that they have done what they say they can do, then you might want to consider looking at other places to publish your book. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing this video. Take care.